Hello, welcome to the Divorce View talk show. My name is Joanie Winberg, certified human behavior consultant, divorce mentor, and CEO of the National Association of Divorce for Women and Children. I'm always honored to do this show with my fabulous partner and co-host, Rosalind Sadaka. Hello, Roz.
Hey there. Hi, Joanie. I'm Rosalind Sadaka. I'm recognized as the voice of child-centered divorce. I'm a divorce and parenting coach and founder of the Child-Centered Divorce Network for Parents. And I'm very happy to introduce you to our guest tonight because we're going to be talking about love and relationships. And his name is Bruce Starr. Bruce is recognized as the love coach, and he does coach in relationship issues. He's an author, and he has a lot of interesting topics to talk to you about today that I think will get you thinking and stimulated. So Bruce, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, and we can take it from there.
Well, first, ladies, I want to thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on the show, and it's an honor to be talking with people who, so many people are going through divorce, have been divorced, and are, quite frankly, worried about their future. And so I'm really glad to be here. I want everybody to know that I've been on a 38-year self-study on several different philosophies on life. And it first started, literally to help me learn more about girls and having more relationships. I admit it. But then my studies kept getting more and more detailed and more serious, and I started uncovering so much information from these many different philosophies on life. Like, for instance, in the 80s, I was introduced to these Course in Miracles classes, and someone brought me to a church in the Upper West Side of Manhattan, and there was Marianne Williamson teaching these the Course in Miracles classes, and she was my teacher and one of my mentors for years and years, and I learned a lot of things from her. And then it just went from one wonderful philosophy on life to another. And I think in 1993, I'd learned so much that I started feeling confident about sharing it. And I did two things. I started being a guest on radio shows, and that turned into me hosting my own show on WNN, what was then the Winners News Network. It was a wonderful station, and I loved listening to all the experts and their 2 or 3 minute vignettes. And I got a show on that station, and I loved it. Started doing local television, but the big breakthrough was a Hollywood TV producer friend of mine, when I went out to visit him, told me about America Online. What is that? He turned his computer around and he started showing me that if I wanted to reach people all over the country, I could do that by being on America Online. And for the next 10 years, I opened up a room called Relationship Coaching, and I had over 6,000 intimate, detailed, documented conversations with people from around the country. And I did that to help them, and I did help a lot of people. But what amazed me was, after listening to 6,000 stories, what I learned from them, and it helped me uncover some incredibly mysterious reasons why so many of us are having a tough time, and people in divorce having a tough time. So I'm really glad to be here to share what I learned with you today.
Absolutely. And the theme of our show today is, are you out of your mind to be in love?
Uh-oh.
And I'm sure our listeners are saying, at times I feel like I must be out of my mind to be in love. I'm having a hard time. I can't seem to find that one or make that connection. And as we all know, going into a new relationship after a first divorce, the divorce rate second time around is even higher, and even higher for third. So I sense that people want to prevent that, and say and feel that, hey, if I'm going to do this a second time around, I'd like it to stick, and I'd like to be in a relationship and not have to worry about that. So let's talk about that. Are you out of your mind to be in love, Bruce?
Well, I think what a great title. Oh, I made up that title. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I like. Well, here's how that all happened. Okay, two ways. One was that what I learned from those 6,000 conversations was basically this. So many of us got our hearts broken when we were 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. It was a wonderful time, wasn't it? It was just great. We loved. There's nothing like it. You come from your heart. There's no holds barred. You don't have any old baggage, and it's just a really honest relationship, hopefully, that people had. But if they had that relationship broken up by their parents, their first love broke up with them, the experience was so painful that I know for a fact that some men, if you want to know why so many men are so weird, and so crazy when
you said that, we didn't.
and what happens after a divorce is, if you were their first love, that man may never recover. He doesn't have close, warm people that he can discuss his feelings with. I mean, you've never heard of Frank and Tony going down to the gym, and Frank saying to Tony, you know, Tony, I got my heart broken. I'm feeling really vulnerable, and my girlfriend doesn't love me anymore. You don't hear guys talking like that, okay? A lot of it is kept inside. And so guys have a really tough time when they get their hearts broken. So to deal with life and to deal with reality, what happens is they stop leaning with their hearts and they start thinking about relationships and how they could make their life work without getting hurt anymore. And so relationships start going from choosing for what you feel to choosing to what you think might be the best deal for you. And then what happens is everything shifts, everything changes, everything happens from choices in their heads, and they start thinking about relationships. You can't feel up in your head, you can only feel from your heart and soul. So you have to be out of your mind to be in love. You have to get out of your mind. And another funny little story, my friend Mitch and I were driving down the street one day, and I see he's looking to make a U-turn at some place where he shouldn't be. And I said, Mitch, don't make a U-turn here. The sign clearly says no U-turn. He says, look at that sign again. And I did. He said, no, U-turn. So there's lots of different ways that you can look at something like the title that I came up with, which is, are you out of your mind to be in love? Well, you have to be out of your mind to be in love. You have to rest that mind, and then you can move on.
Wow. Absolutely. And I just wanted to say for our listeners here, if you see that when I'm speaking the screen is black, is for some reason I'm frozen, but Roz, you're showing up and so are you, Bruce. So Roz, go right ahead.
Okay. So Bruce, we're coming out of a divorce or a serious breakup, and we're very jaded. We could be angry and bitter. There's a lot of emotion, a lot of drama in our lives. And if that's the case for the man as well as the woman, we have a real challenge there because we're not trusting one another. We're trying to one-up the other person and see if this relationship is worthwhile without getting hurt. We put up a block and a barrier about getting hurt. What kind of advice can you give us about how to approach new relationships after we've been hurt?
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I appreciate it. I want to explain to you about my pie theory in life. My pie theory is, let's go back to that 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. When you were in that relationship, you presented a whole pie tin. It was a nice big full apple pie or a cherry pie, and when you went with that other person, you were saying, here, I present you with my entire pie. If you get your heart broken, you don't have that whole pie to offer anyone again. You have a lot less. And here's where people start making the big mistake. In order to cover up their bad feelings, their hurt, they start dating. And when you start rebound dating and dating, you're thinking about relationships, you're making the wrong choices, and you start thinking about what the person can do for you rather than having feelings for them. And that's where my book, Body Traders, comes in. Body Traders, people say, what is this title, Body Traders? What are you, a sci-fi writer or something? So no, it's not about that at all. What Body Traders kicks in is this. When you start thinking about relationships, you start compromising, you start going for the best deal. You know, go forward with your heart. Oh, aren't they nice? Aren't they sweet? I could really like them. No. When you think about relationships, you think about the best deal. If you're a man, you say to yourself, hey, I want to find the woman who has the prettiest face and the best body and who I can have the best sex with. And if you're stereotypically now, and if you're a woman stereotypically now, you're going to maybe think to yourself, well, I'm going to find someone who can take care of me. I'm going to find a rich guy who drives the right car and who lives in the right house in the right neighborhood. Well, what you're talking about now is instead of loving each other, you're basically talking about trading what each one has to get what the other one has. That's horse trading. Or if you have enough of what I want, I'll give you what I have. And if you have enough beauty and sexuality, I'll offer you my finances. Well, that's a sad state that we all got into. And so what do? I strongly suggest that instead of taking that first step towards dating more and joining this service and that service, I strongly suggest that you not take that route. I suggest that you take some time to fill that pie, because that pie is half gone, 3/4 gone, and the next person you meet, what good is it if you offer them a quarter of a pie and they've got an empty pie? Because they've been dating and dating and dating. What I strongly suggest is get back into yourself. Get back into your heart, not having to do with anybody else, but get back into your own heart and your own soul. What I suggest people do, meditate. Take meditation classes. Take yoga classes. Go to astrology classes. Anything that will help fill your inner soul and your heart. And by the way, there's some wonderful people at those classes, at yoga classes. And you're not going, of course, looking, but what a great way to observe people and watch people and go to class each week and see the same people going. That's what I suggest. Don't try to trust people artificially. When you learn how to trust yourself and not make body trader choices and decisions, and you make choices out of your heart, hey, he's really sweet. Boy, she's really nice. I want to try to get to know him. That's how you protect yourself from making bad mistakes in the future. And take it slowly. Don't jump into bed. People who are really running on empty now, guys especially, the only way for them to feel like they can connect right now is if they can go to bed and bond with you that way. Well, they're running on empty. And don't fall for their rap. Come on, if you really like me, if you really love me, you'll go to bed with me. You know what? Communication stops on many levels when you go to bed too early, unless it's like the most incredible boom connection of your lifetime. Then I'm not saying to wait months and months, but if it's just you're wondering, take your time. Don't jump into anything and learn how to trust your feelings, because don't worry about trusting your thoughts. Learn how to trust your feelings, your intuition.
Bruce, would you also say that part of it is good to learn maybe it's too much in the head, but to learn from that first experience so that maybe you don't fall into that trap, that similar trap?
Well, of course you learn from everything, and that's what's so great about being on a spiritual path. Because when you're on a spiritual path, life goes on forever. You don't have to be afraid of dying because, you just have that spiritual, you know that life goes on even after you've transitioned from this body. So when you approach life that way, you get to look at things differently. You get to see things in a different way, and you approach each other. I've kind of forgotten. What did you say real quickly again? I'm trying to bring it back. What was the question again?
Well, basically, I guess I'm looking at, do we learn from our past mistakes so that we also don't get into that same type of relationship?
Yes. And
from our past mistakes.
Well, past mistakes happen. And people will say, oh, I got my heart broken. It really doesn't happen when you trust your heart. It happens many times when you make the wrong choices. And I know a lot of people will be able to relate to this. If your mom or dad had too much influence on you about who you were to marry, and they knocked you off balance and knocked you off the path of being with your first love, and they got you, what you should really marry a doctor. You should really marry a lawyer. So it's the mistakes that we make is when we listen to other people tell us what we should do and not really trust ourselves. So I think that's the greatest lesson that we could learn, is to trust ourselves and learn to tune into our intuition rather than listening to what everybody else says that we should do.
Bruce, like you, I'm a coach. I coach singles on dating and relationships. And I liked a lot of your message because I think there's a lot of validity to talking about the body traders mentality of using your mind and following your shoulds and your rules and the mores that our culture gives us and our family and friends give us. And I think they do send us down the wrong line. But I'd like to explore further about following your heart, because there is a lot of women who definitely follow their heart, and they fall madly in love with seemingly nice guys, and then they get hurt, and it was their heart that it keeps them. We very often, if we're watching Dr. Phil type of shows on TV, they'll always say, but I loved him, so I accepted the abuse, so I stayed longer, so I took it. And so there's has to be some conversation about whether your heart is the full level of monitoring what's right for you to move ahead with. Can you speak to that?
Well, absolutely. And I'm going to suggest that if they chose a really nice guy, when you choose really nice people, most of the time, you don't get their hearts broken by nice guys. What you're really doing is you're making choices, and now this is where it gets really tricky, because falling in love with your heart and falling in love with the choices that you make for someone are very different. They can feel the same, but when someone falls in love with their heart, it's just a genuine, wonderful feeling that you both have. But if it's one-sided, which happens a lot, it's one-sided, you say you're falling in love with someone, but they're not falling in love with you, so something is very wrong. You want something from that person. You're assigning them a role. You have expectations of that person. That's not really falling in love from the heart. That's more body trading. And it's very subtle, because people think, oh, my heart, I gave my heart, my soul, and all he did was abuse me. That's not love. That's participating as a more subtle body trader, going to someone for what could do for you, whether it be sexually or financially, or maybe they're movie producers or they're the boss, whatever it is, you can say that you fell in love with them and then they broke your heart. I'm going to say people need to really go back and look at what reasons they picked that man for. Because it usually doesn't happen where a sweet, wonderful woman and a sweet, wonderful guy, you know, they usually end up staying together because nobody wants to hurt each other, even if the passion dies down. So it's always because people were making heady choices for someone that looked really great for them is where they get their hearts broken. And we all need to start making choices from our hearts, purely from our hearts. Our hearts don't say, I want that rich guy. Our hearts don't say, I want that sexy girl and I'll do anything to be with them. That's our head talking. Our hearts are, wow, what a sweet person. What a wonderful person. What a generous person. They make me laugh. They're so kind. They're giving me time. They're very nice to me. That's from the heart. And people are not usually nasty people who do terrible things to other people when relationships begin that way.
Bruce, I have a kind of a question. What about if somebody, I always look at it that the first 3 months people tend to send in their representative. It's not who they really are. And then after that, people start to see the true colors and are completely fooled. So what do you think about that?
Well, again, they're not coming from their hearts. As a matter of fact, if you're coming from your head, you participate in every activity in somebody else's shoes. They're not your shoes. So you're uncomfortable right from the start. You're walking around in shoes that are too tight, they're too loose, and you're not being yourself, and you're setting yourself up for failure. Because
what about people that fool other people and they try to be what other people want them to be? And I've been in that situation where the guy completely fooled me, and after 3 months I started to see his true colors, and I couldn't believe that he more or less faked it for so long.
There was something about him that you really wanted.
Okay.
And you were overruling your gut feeling down here.
Which means I should have left 2 weeks later.
The gut feeling was saying something's not quite right.
Okay.
You know, he's not really, something's not right, but I really like him. He's really cute. He's got a great job. And I'm not saying this is you, of course, but this is what people do. They allow their minds and thoughts to take over, and they overrule their intuition. I'm going to tell you a story. When I lived in Massachusetts, of all places, and I started dating this really attractive girl. My God, she was so pretty, and she was sexy, and she had a wonderful figure, and we got together, and we had really a lot of nice experiences. But instead of feeling warmer and deeper towards her, when I was with her, my stomach would get upset. I'd get stomach aches. And I'd say, what is going on here? What happened was she knew she wasn't going to be staying. She knew she was going to be moving to another part of the country. She was halfway gone. And so she was only giving me a quarter of her pie. So here I was thinking that things were great, but the rest of the pie wasn't being delivered to me. And it didn't work. She broke up with me because she was leaving. So that's what I'm saying. We could imagine everything is going right, but pay attention to that inner feeling. If you're meeting a guy and his words are different from his actions, if he says he's going to be there at 7:30 and he's up at 8:30 on the first date, man, watch that. I mean, they're showing you what they're like right off the bat. If they say, oh, I had a flat tire and all this kind of stuff, come on. Watch their words.
So you're saying watch those red flags, but not watch them, but listen to those red flags.
Listen to what they're saying, but watch their actions. Mm-hmm. Tune into your gut feelings. Are the things that they're saying ringing true? Let me just give you, for instance, about another kind of guy. You know, I wrote this book, Body Traders, and the book has so many great stories in it about people that you know, told me their stories. And here's a really interesting situation. When someone comes on so strong, they give you compliment after compliment after compliment, and you go, wow, this is really cool. You don't really like him that much, but he's so full of compliments. He's making you feel so good. What is he doing? He's filling you in ways that you're not filling yourself. So you keep him around, okay? And he's filling you full of confidence, and you all of a sudden 6 months goes down the line, and you've still got him around, okay? Now, one of the reasons that this is so devastating, and this happens to so many people, is that this person was checking you out right from the start. They saw that you didn't really care for them. And because they know how to manipulate people, players know how to manipulate people. And they're either there, they either look at you, they say, boy, if you have does she have high self-esteem or does she have low self-esteem? If they hook up with the idea that you have low self-esteem, they'll compliment you and compliment you and compliment you. If they see that you have high self-esteem, they will compliment themselves and try to make themselves build themselves up in your eyes so that you'll think and feel that they're for you, okay? But those are all false beginnings, and you have to watch. That is the true way to tell a player from a lover. A player never sells himself or sells you how great you are or sells themselves how great they are. They just don't do it. They don't approach relationships that way. So there are ways to tell players from lovers, and you just have to watch what they say. Don't listen too much to what they say. Really get more into what they do and make sure that what they do is okay.
So, Bruce, why don't you let us know how people can find you and learn more about what you're offering?
I appreciate that. I am the original and first love coach at AOL. So my address is LUV Coach. See, I didn't want to have LOVE because I was always figuring myself as a bit of an oddball. So I did LUV Coach at AOL.com. Now, for anyone that wants to find out more about me, they can go to my two websites. One is lovecoach.net, LUV.net, and the other one, which has more detail, is bodytraders.com. Bodytraders.com. And for anyone who wants to, I'm going to be focusing a lot of my time in the future with helping people do one-on-one relationships, matchmaking, and I'm also going to be focusing a lot of my time on the possibility of producing some reality shows and sitcoms. And if people want to find out about either auditioning to be on the sitcoms or to just find out information about them, you can email me at lovecoach@AOL.com or info@bodytraders.com. And, you know, you'll be able to keep up with all the things that are going on. Thank you.
So why don't you give us some advice to leave our listeners with? What's the most important message that you haven't shared already that we want to take away from your years of experience?
Well, you know, the whole thing is about learning to trust yourself. When people complain about how bad he was and how bad she was, right now, human beings are at an all-time low when it comes to trusting each other. So if you approach relationships automatically thinking that the other person's going to do you in eventually, of course, you're going to attract that, and it's going to happen. So men and women need not to be on different sides of the fence. Men and women need to get together. Men and women need to be in situations where they could learn to not want from other people, but just be with each other to learn to give to each other. We've really gone away from being givers because imagine a whole generation of people have turned into body traders. people you can't trust. So just like, well, you know, people say, oh, I can't take what's going on in the world. It's so much violence. You can't watch the news and stay calm and peaceful. The news is going to tell you all bad things. It's the same thing about your life. You can't pay attention to what 80 or 90% of the people are doing, especially if they're doing the wrong things for love. You have to learn what you can do in your own world to find a loving space inside of yourself so that you can find someone that you can allow into your life who also comes from love. The big thing to remember, and that everybody's running wild with all these dating services and dating sites, if you have an empty pie tin, you have nothing to offer someone. When it comes to love, you have to have something first before you can offer it to somebody else. You have to recook your pie tin. Do that meditation class. Go to yoga classes. Get in touch with your body. Hug trees. Do gardening. Fill yourself so that when you meet someone terrific, you've regrown your pie tin. Don't look for someone to fill you and you're desperate for love and you're desperate for relationships. It's not going to work. Yes, two body traders can come together. Yes, two people can even get married. But when you're body traders, that relationship has a foundation of fear that the other person is going to change his mind. She's going to change her mind. Instead of having a relationship based on love and confidence, you have a relationship based on an awful platform of fear. So stop body trading. Stop picking and choosing what you think is best. Get in touch with your feelings and start volunteer your time. Start filling yourself again. Be around good quality people and stay away from bars and clubs where people are body trading like crazy.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Bruce Starr, the love coach. We love your passion and enthusiasm for this topic. I have it as well. Can we hear a last word from you, Joanie?
Absolutely, and admire that blank screen, but I'm here in spirit and audio. So, Bruce, thanks so much for joining us and being on the show. And Roz, would you like to let people know our website?
Yes, if you go to divorceview.com, you'll be able to find archives of all our shows. We have wonderful expert guests on a broad range of topics, everything that anyone would want to know about before, during, and after divorce, and from obviously moving on in relationships as well. So we invite you to go there. We're also on YouTube, where you'll see Divorce View videos there as well. And we encourage you to join us every Wednesday at 6 o'clock Eastern Time to live on the air at this Google Hangout so that you can participate with us.
Thank you, Joanie. Thank you, Rosalind. I appreciate you having me. I love being here.
It was a pleasure. Until next week, look forward to seeing you all again. Bye-bye now.